Ladies and gentlemen, time is a precious resource, one that is never replenished once it's gone. It is easy to forget how valuable it is in the rush of daily life, caught up in distractions and procrastination. Yet every moment we let slip by without purpose is a moment we can never get back. Today I want to remind you of the importance of cherishing and making the most of your time. The truth is, we all have the same 24 hours in a day, and how we choose to spend those hours determines the quality and success of our lives. Many of us get sidetracked by trivial matters, by things that do not serve our personal growth or goals. But it's never too late to reassess, realign, and prioritize what matters. Time is a finite and irreplaceable resource. Unlike money, which can be earned, saved, or invested to grow, time operates differently. Once it's spent, there is no getting it back. Every second that passes is a second that's gone forever. Think about that for a moment. You can't go back in time, you can't pause it, and you can't rewind it. The time you have right now is the only time you have for certain. This truth should shake us into realizing the gravity of how we spend our time. In our busy lives, we often get so caught up in routine and distractions that we forget the sheer value of time. We tend to take it for granted, assuming that it will always be there, that we'll always have tomorrow to make up for today. But the reality is that every second that slips away unaccounted for is an opportunity we'll never get back. Time is irreplaceable in every sense. You can lose money and regain it, but if you waste time, you are losing something far more precious. As we grow older, we realize more and more how limited our time truly is. We can look back and regret hours or days we spent on things that didn't matter, but we can never recover those moments. The past is written and the future is uncertain. The present moment is all we truly have, and it's crucial to realize that what we do with our time today will determine the quality of our lives moving forward. It's not about how much time you have, but how you choose to spend it. Whether you spend it chasing your dreams, strengthening relationships, or learning new things, every choice you make has lasting consequences. When we waste time on things that don't align with our values or goals, we are essentially letting pieces of our lives slip through our fingers. You Delhists say every second of your life is a fleeting opportunity, and it's easy to overlook the significance of each moment in the rush of everyday activities. We often become so engrossed in our to-do lists, the pressures of work or school, and the demands of social media that we forget to stop and truly appreciate the time we have. The truth is, every single moment that passes is irreplaceable, and it cannot be stored, saved, or recovered. So many people live with the illusion that there will always be more time later. But the reality is that the present is all we truly control. When we take the time to slow down and fully engage with the present moment, we begin to realize how much of life we've been missing while distracted. How often do we sit down for a meal, but our minds are already preoccupied with what's next? So, just last night, how many times have we been in a conversation, yet our attention is somewhere else, thinking about tasks that need to be done? By not valuing these moments, we not only miss out on the depth and richness of life, but we also lose precious time that could have been spent meaningfully. Valuing each moment means recognizing that each one is an opportunity to grow, learn, and connect. When you take the time to really pay attention to what is happening around you, you can better appreciate the small joys in life. whether it's the laughter of a loved one, the quiet beauty of nature, or even the accomplishment of completing a task. It is easy to overlook these seemingly small experiences, but they are in fact the building blocks of a meaningful life. Too often, we focus on what we don't have or where we aren't, instead of appreciating where we are right now. Valuing every moment encourages us to shift our focus from what's missing to what's present. It's about being intentional with your time and acknowledging the worth of the present, regardless of where you are or what you're doing. In doing so, we open ourselves up to the full potential of every day, making every moment count, rather than allowing life to pass us by without truly experiencing it. By appreciating each moment, we also come to understand that time isn't something to be hurried through. It's not about racing toward a destination or trying to fill every minute with activity. Instead, it's about being fully present, appreciating the now, and realizing that each moment, no matter how seemingly insignificant, has value. In a world that often glorifies busyness and productivity, taking the time to pause and reflect on the beauty of the present moment can be incredibly grounding and fulfilling. In today's world, distractions are everywhere. We live in a time where technology, social media, and constant notifications are designed to capture our attention, often leading us away from what truly matters. Whether it's mindlessly scrolling through social media, checking our emails every few minutes, or getting lost in endless streams of entertainment, distractions have become an inevitable part of our daily lives. The challenge, however, lies in recognizing how these distractions steal away our precious time. Distractions are not just external forces. They can also come from within. Our own thoughts, worries, and anxieties can pull us away from the present moment. How many times have we found ourselves in the middle of an important task only to be sidetracked by a sudden thought or feeling? These mental distractions can be just as powerful as external ones, and they make it difficult to stay focused and truly engaged with what we're doing. The key is to become aware of when we are being distracted and make a conscious decision to refocus. The cost of distractions is far greater than just the time lost in the moment. Studies show that when we're distracted, it takes time to regain our focus, and sometimes we can even become less efficient or creative because of it. The deeper consequence is that, over time, these constant distractions can chip away at our productivity, our relationships, and our overall sense of fulfillment. When we are constantly pulled in different directions, it's difficult to stay aligned with our goals, and we might find ourselves spending our time on things that don't serve us in the long run. Part of being conscious of distractions means setting boundaries, both with technology and with ourselves. This can involve turning off notifications, setting specific times to check email, or even creating designated time blocks for certain activities so we don't get sidetracked. But it also means learning to manage our internal distractions. We often let our inner voice, whether it's doubts, fears, or scattered thoughts, take us away from our tasks. Being aware of these internal distractions and actively working to calm our minds is just as important as avoiding external ones. Sometimes we feel busy and accomplished because we are constantly switching between tasks, but the reality is that this type of multitasking can actually be detrimental to our focus and efficiency. Jumping from one thing to the next may give us a sense of progress, but it ultimately leads to fragmentation in our efforts. the more scattered our attention. True productivity requires deep focus and the ability to give our full attention to one thing at a time. Being conscious of distractions requires mindfulness and discipline. It means recognizing when we are being pulled away from what matters and taking steps to refocus our attention. It means being present with the task at hand. And doing this, we not only save time but also create a life where we feel more in control, purposeful, and fulfilled. Ultimately, being conscious of distractions allows us to reclaim our time and use it in a way that is aligned with our values and goals. In our fast-paced world, we are constantly bombarded with options, decisions, and competing demands for our time. From the moment we wake up to the time we go to bed, we face countless choices about how we'll spend our day. With so many things pulling us in different directions, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters and fall into the trap of prioritizing the urgent over the important. Yet, in order to make the most of our time, it's essential to recognize the difference between what demands our attention and what truly deserves it. To prioritize what matters means to be intentional about how we allocate our time and energy. It means aligning our actions with our core values, personal goals, and long-term vision instead of reacting impulsively to every immediate request or fleeting distraction. Often we find ourselves saying yes to things because they seem urgent or because we feel guilty turning them down. But this can lead to a life filled with obligations that drain us rather than enriching us. By prioritizing what really matters, we create space for activities that add real value to our lives. One of the key steps in prioritizing is understanding our values and goals. What do you truly care about? What do you want to achieve in the long run? Without a clear sense of purpose, it becomes easy to be pulled in many directions, chasing after things that, in the grand scheme of things, may not contribute to our well-being or growth. By identifying our top priorities, whether it's building a career, nurturing relationships, pursuing a passion, or improving health, we give ourselves a framework for making decisions about where to direct our attention. The art of prioritization also involves saying no. Saying no is not a sign of weakness or unkindness, but rather a powerful tool for protecting your time. When we say yes to everything, we end up spreading ourselves too thin, leaving little room for the things that matter most. By learning to say no to tasks, events, or commitments that don't align with our priorities, we free ourselves up to focus on what really contributes to our happiness and success. This can be one of the hardest skills to master, especially in a world that often values busyness and overcommitment, but it's a skill that can ultimately lead to greater peace of mind and productivity. Another aspect of prioritizing is being able to let go of perfectionism. Many people spend an enormous amount of time and energy trying to do everything perfectly, which leads to unnecessary stress and burnout. Perfectionism can keep us stuck in a cycle of overworking, constantly tweaking and refining, when in reality, good enough is often sufficient. By recognizing that not everything requires our absolute best effort, we can prioritize the things that need our focus and release the pressure to be perfect in everything we do. Prioritizing what matters also means creating time for self-care and rest. In the hustle of daily life, it's easy to neglect our own needs. But if we don't take care of ourselves, we will not have the energy, clarity, or focus to address the things that truly matter. Rest, relaxation, and mental health are just as important as any task on our to-do list. When we prioritize our own well-being, We are better equipped to take on challenges and pursue our passions with vigor and resilience. In practice, prioritizing requires constant evaluation. What mattered to you a year ago might not be as important to you today, and that's okay. Our goals and values evolve as we grow, and it's important to reflect on where we are now and what we want to focus on moving forward. This ongoing assessment allows us to course correct and ensure that we are using our time in a way that reflects who we are becoming, not just who we were. Ultimately, prioritizing what matters isn't a one-time decision. It's a continual process of reevaluating our goals, adjusting our actions, and making conscious choices about where we invest our time. The more we focus on what truly brings us fulfillment and aligns with our purpose, the more we build a life that is intentional, rewarding, and meaningful. Time spent on what matters is never wasted, and when we make it a priority, we ensure that our time serves us rather than the other way around. No matter who we are, where we come from, or what stage of life we're in, we all have one thing in common. We are given the same 24 hours in a day. The billionaire has 24 hours, the student has 24 hours, the stay-at-home parent has 24 hours. There is no magical formula or special exception. The difference between those who seem to accomplish great things and those who don't is not the amount of time they have, but how they choose to use it. This simple yet profound reality should shift how we view time and our relationship with it. In many ways, the perception of time can often become distorted. We might feel like we are too busy to achieve our goals, or that others are more fortunate because they have more time or fewer obligations. However, this feeling is a result of how we manage our time, not the amount of it available. Every day we make choices about where our time goes, and those choices determine whether we are working toward our dreams or simply passing the time. The fact that everyone from the busiest executive to the most laid-back individual has the same 24 hours forces us to recognize that how we manage our time is what sets us apart. The key to making the most of our 24 hours lies in how we prioritize and structure our day. It's easy to get overwhelmed when we think about everything we need to do, but the reality is, every single person faces these same pressures. The difference is in how effectively we plan and use our time. Successful people don't necessarily have more hours in the day. They simply know how to focus, organize, and execute within the 24 hours they have. Whether it's dedicating time to personal growth, setting boundaries to minimize distractions, or focusing on high-priority tasks, it's about making intentional choices. We all have the same amount of time, but how we fill that time matters. If you find yourself constantly saying, "I don't have enough time," perhaps it's time to take a closer look at how you are spending those 24 hours. Are you allocating them toward your goals, or are you getting lost in distractions, mindless activities, or procrastination? The answer to these questions will reveal a lot about your relationship with time and how you're using it. Another important factor to consider is that time doesn't wait for anyone. We often tell ourselves, "I'll start tomorrow," or "I'll do it next week," but the truth is, each day that we push things off is a day we could have used to make progress. Our 24 hours are not waiting for us to decide when we're ready. The key to using our time effectively is recognizing that today is the day to act. There's no better moment to start than now, because once that time is gone, it's lost forever. This fact can also be a great motivator. Realizing that we all have the same 24 hours can inspire us to use our time more wisely. It can prompt us to stop procrastinating, stop making excuses, and start taking action. If someone else can achieve great things within the same time constraints, why can't we? Time is the great equalizer. It doesn't discriminate based on wealth, status, or background. The only difference between people who seem to have it all together and those who struggle to keep up is often how they spend their time. Lastly, the idea that everyone has 24 hours emphasizes the importance of balance. We often look at others and compare ourselves, wondering how they seem to do it all. The truth is, those who successfully balance work, family, hobbies, and self-care do so by making deliberate choices about how they use their time. It's not about cramming everything into every hour, but rather about knowing what deserves your focus and attention in each moment. Prioritizing, setting boundaries, and learning to say no are key strategies in making sure that you're not only using your time effectively, but also maintaining your mental and emotional well-being. When we stop comparing our 24 hours to others and start focusing on how we can make the most of our own time, we can begin to see results. Time is the one resource we all share, and it's up to us to decide how to use it. How you fill your 24 hours is a direct reflection of what you value, what you're working toward, and how committed you are to making the most of your time on this earth. Procrastination is one of the most common obstacles to making the most of our time. It is a subtle thief, quietly stealing away precious moments that could otherwise be used productively. We all know what it's like to put something off, whether it's a work project, a personal goal, or even a simple task like making a phone call. In the moment, procrastination may feel like a temporary relief, avoiding discomfort, uncertainty, or fear of failure, but in the long run, it only leads to stress, missed opportunities, and regret. Procrastination is often rooted in a variety of emotional and psychological factors. One of the biggest causes is fear. Fear of failure, fear of not being good enough, or fear of the task being too difficult. These fears can paralyze us, making the task seem insurmountable. Instead of tackling it head-on, we put it off, hoping the pressure of the deadline will force us to take action. But the longer we delay, the more daunting the task becomes, and the more we push ourselves further into a cycle of anxiety and avoidance. Procrastination feeds on this fear and makes it even harder to move forward. Another reason we procrastinate is due to a lack of motivation. When the task at hand doesn't feel exciting, urgent, or aligned with our passions, it's easy to push it aside in favor of activities that provide immediate gratification. For example, we might choose to scroll through social media or binge watch a TV show rather than work on something important but less engaging. This type of short-term pleasure often masks the deeper dissatisfaction that comes from putting off meaningful tasks. While it may feel good in the moment, this fleeting enjoyment does nothing to move us closer to our long-term goals. Procrastination can also be a symptom of perfectionism. When we feel like we must do something perfectly, we may delay starting because we are afraid that the result won't meet our high standards. This fear of imperfection can be paralyzing, as it keeps us from taking the first step. Believing that the task needs to be flawless from the start, does it bleedingly goes our into our mind. However, perfection is rarely attainable, and striving for it can delay progress indefinitely. The reality is that making mistakes and learning along the way is part of the process. By waiting for the perfect moment or condition to begin, we may miss out on valuable experiences and growth opportunities. One of the best ways to combat procrastination is to break tasks down into smaller, more manageable steps. Large, overwhelming projects can seem impossible, causing us to avoid them altogether. However, when we divide a big task into smaller, more achievable goals, we reduce the feeling of being overwhelmed. This approach helps us gain momentum, as accomplishing smaller tasks feels rewarding and encourages us to continue. By setting mini deadlines or milestones, we create a sense of structure that keeps us moving forward and prevents procrastination from taking hold. Additionally, building a sense of accountability can help to overcome procrastination. When we commit to someone else or set a public goal, it's harder to put it off because we don't want to let others down. This external pressure can serve as motivation, making us more likely to take action. For example, sharing your goals with a friend, family member, or colleague can create a sense of responsibility, prompting you to stay on track. Even self-accountability, like setting personal deadlines or tracking progress, can make a significant difference in breaking the cycle of procrastination. It's also important to recognize that procrastination is not always about avoiding hard work. Sometimes it's a form of avoidance when we don't know where to start. The sheer uncertainty of how to approach a task can prevent us from even beginning. In these cases, the solution is to simply take that first step, even if it feels small or imperfect. Starting the task, no matter how difficult or unclear the process seems, is often the hardest part. Once you've begun, momentum builds and it becomes easier to continue. Finally, addressing the root causes of procrastination is essential for long-term success. This means looking inward and asking ourselves why we avoid certain tasks. Are we avoiding discomfort? Are we afraid of failing? Are we distracted by something more enjoyable? Understanding the underlying emotions and thought patterns that contribute to procrastination helps us address them directly and move past them. It's about changing our mindset from seeing a task as something to avoid to viewing it as an opportunity for growth and progress. Overcoming procrastination is not easy, and it doesn't happen overnight. It requires consistent effort and self-awareness. However, the more we challenge our tendency to delay and take action, the more we take control of our time and the path we're on. Every moment we spend procrastinating is time we'll never get back, and it's time we could have spent working toward our goals, improving ourselves. And by taking small, deliberate steps to break free from procrastination, we ultimately unlock our potential and reclaim the time that is rightfully ours. Mistakes are an inevitable part of life, yet they are often viewed as setbacks, failures, or something to be ashamed of. The truth is, mistakes are an essential component of growth, learning, and progress. Every successful person has made mistakes. They are not an indicator of incompetence, but rather a sign that you are trying, taking risks, and pushing your boundaries. What really matters is how we respond to these mistakes and what we take from them. Learning from your mistakes is one of the most powerful ways to maximize your time, as it allows you to adjust, improve, and avoid repeating the same errors. When we make mistakes, it's easy to become discouraged. We might feel like we wasted time or failed, and it can be tempting to abandon the pursuit entirely. However, this mindset limits the potential lessons that mistakes offer. Rather than viewing mistakes as a reason to quit, it's important to embrace them as opportunities for growth. Mistakes offer us the chance to reflect on what went wrong, identify areas for improvement, and refine our approach moving forward. When we learn from our mistakes, we transform them from sources of regret into stepping stones towards success. The first step in learning from your mistakes is to take responsibility. It's natural to want to blame external factors, other people, or circumstances for our failures, but true learning comes when we own our role in the situation. By acknowledging where we went wrong, we gain clarity on what happened and why it happened. Taking responsibility for our mistakes is not about self-blame, but about recognizing that we have the power to learn and change. This accountability is the foundation for meaningful growth, as it empowers us to make better decisions in the future. Once we've taken responsibility, the next step is reflection. Reflection is the process of looking back on the mistake and analyzing it from a constructive perspective. Ask yourself, what could I have done differently? What factors contributed to the mistake? What did I learn from the experience? It's important to approach this reflection without judgment or self-criticism. The goal is not to punish yourself, but to understand what went wrong and identify strategies to avoid similar pitfalls. Learning from mistakes also involves developing resilience. It's easy to get discouraged after a mistake, but resilience is what enables us to bounce back. Resilience is the ability to stay focused on your goals and maintain the determination to keep going even when things don't go as planned. It's the mindset that allows us to view setbacks as temporary and solvable, rather than as permanent failures. When we make mistakes and don't let them define us, we develop the resilience to keep moving forward, trying new things and learning from every experience. An important part of learning from mistakes is cultivating the ability to make adjustments. This means using the knowledge gained from a mistake to alter your future approach. For example, if you fail to meet a deadline, you might identify that poor time management or a lack of planning contributed to the issue. The lesson here is to adjust your approach by breaking tasks into smaller, manageable steps, setting clear deadlines, and building in time for review. Learning from mistakes is not about perfection, it's about progress. Each mistake offers an opportunity to refine your approach, optimize your workflow, and become more efficient in your efforts. Mistakes can also teach us about our limitations. While we all strive to perform at our best, we each have areas of weakness or areas where we need further development. A mistake might highlight these limitations, but instead of seeing them as permanent flaws, we can view them as areas to focus on for growth. Recognizing our weaknesses allows us to develop the skills necessary to overcome them. This could involve seeking feedback, asking for help, or dedicating more time to learning and practice. Over time, acknowledging our limitations and taking proactive steps to address them can lead to significant personal and professional growth. Additionally, learning from mistakes involves adopting a mindset of continuous improvement. Every mistake provides a chance to get better, but only if we are committed to learning and adapting. This mindset encourages us to keep trying, experimenting, and refining our techniques. In a world that often rewards quick results and perfection, it can be easy to get discouraged by mistakes. But those who embrace continuous improvement understand that success is rarely linear and that every failure is a lesson that brings them closer to their goal. By adopting this mindset, we can create a cycle of growth where mistakes are an integral part of the learning process. One key aspect of learning from mistakes is sharing those lessons with others. When we learn something valuable from our own mistakes, it can be helpful to share those insights with others to help them avoid the same pitfalls. This not only benefits those around us, but also reinforces our own understanding of the lesson. Teaching others what we've learned from our mistakes is a powerful way to solidify the knowledge and help others grow as well. It creates a supportive environment where mistakes are seen as learning opportunities rather than failures to be hidden. Finally, it's important to remember that learning from mistakes is a lifelong process. We will continue to make mistakes throughout our lives, and that's okay. Each mistake, big or small, contributes to our personal evolution and makes us more capable, skilled, and resilient. The key is to never stop learning, never stop reflecting, and never stop growing. By embracing our mistakes and using them as tools for improvement, we transform our relationship with failure. Instead of fearing it, we begin to see it as a natural and necessary part of the journey towards success. When we learn from our mistakes, we not only improve our ability to manage time and resources more effectively, but we also build the character and wisdom needed to navigate life's challenges. Mistakes are not the end of the road. They are simply detours that can lead to greater understanding and greater achievements. By approaching mistakes with a mindset of curiosity, resilience, and growth, we maximize our ability to use time wisely, avoid repeating errors, and achieve our true potential. How often do we find ourselves saying, "I'll start tomorrow," "I'll do it next week," or "I'll begin when the time is right"? These phrases are commonly used to justify procrastination, delay, or inaction. We convince ourselves that we need to wait for the perfect moment before we can take the first step toward a goal or make a change in our lives. But the truth is, the perfect moment rarely comes. Life is unpredictable and circumstances are always shifting. If we continue to wait for everything to align perfectly, we might find ourselves waiting forever. The idea of waiting for the perfect moment often stems from our desire for certainty, comfort, or perfection. We want everything to be in place, the right conditions, the ideal timing, the perfect environment, or the perfect state of readiness. It's easy to convince ourselves that we need more time to prepare, more resources, or more knowledge before we can take action. However, this desire for perfection can become a barrier to progress. It prevents us from taking the first step, and that first step is often the most important one. Perfectionism can be paralyzing. The belief that everything has to be flawless before we take action creates a sense of fear and doubt. We become so focused on avoiding mistakes or flaws that we fail to move forward altogether. This mindset, while rooted in a desire for quality and success, often leads to missed opportunities and wasted time. The reality is that waiting for perfection can delay progress indefinitely. No matter how much we prepare, there will always be an element of uncertainty. Life doesn't wait for the perfect conditions, and neither should we. The key to overcoming the trap of waiting for the perfect moment is to recognize that action is more important than perfection. Taking imperfect action, no matter how small, propels us forward. Once we start, we create momentum, and that momentum builds. Often the act of doing something, even if it's not done perfectly, teaches us more than endless planning or preparation ever could. It's through trial and error that we learn, improve, and refine our approach. The mistakes we make along the way provide valuable lessons that help us grow and adjust our course. Waiting for the perfect moment also involves an illusion of control. We might believe that if we wait for the right conditions, everything will fall into place and we'll have more control over the outcome. But life is unpredictable, and waiting for control can leave us stuck in indecision and hesitation. The more we delay action, the more we allow external circumstances, doubts, or fear to control our lives. When we stop waiting for everything to be perfect and take the first step, we reclaim control over our time and our direction. Taking action in the face of uncertainty also builds confidence. The more we take initiative, even when conditions aren't ideal, the more we prove to ourselves that we can handle challenges. This confidence reinforces our ability to adapt and grow, even when things don't go as planned. Instead of letting uncertainty paralyze us, we can see it as an opportunity to learn and evolve. Over time, this confidence becomes a powerful force, helping us overcome future obstacles and embrace new opportunities without hesitation. Another reason people wait for the perfect moment is that they fear failure or rejection. We often assume that we need everything to be perfect in order to succeed. This fear of failure keeps us stuck in a loop of inaction. But failure is not the end. It is simply a part of the journey. In fact, failure is often a better teacher than success. It forces us to reflect, adjust, and try again. The fear of failure should not be a reason to delay action, but rather a motivator to learn, grow, and improve. Moreover, when we wait for the perfect moment, we miss out on the opportunities that exist in the present. We often think that tomorrow will be a better time to start, but in reality, tomorrow is never guaranteed. Waiting for the perfect moment is an excuse to avoid living in the present and taking advantage of the opportunities right in front of us. Every moment we wait is time that could have been spent progressing, learning, and growing. The perfect moment doesn't exist, but the present moment, right now, is always available to us. Another aspect to consider is that the idea of a perfect moment can often be tied to an unrealistic standard. We have a tendency to idealize certain circumstances or conditions, thinking that they will provide us with the best chance for success. But the reality is that waiting for everything to be ideal can lead to chronic indecision and missed chances. Perfection is subjective, and what seems perfect in our minds may not be necessary for progress or success. The key is to recognize that starting with what you have, where you are, is often the most important step. Taking imperfect action doesn't mean jumping into something without planning or preparation, but it does mean being willing to take calculated risks, face discomfort, and learn along the way. It means understanding that mistakes, setbacks, and challenges are part of the process, not roadblocks to avoid. The best time to start is always now. There's no need to wait for the stars to align. When we act even with limited information or imperfect conditions, we create opportunities for growth and learning that can't be obtained by waiting. In fact, waiting for the perfect moment can often lead to greater anxiety and self-doubt. As we continue to put things off, the pressure to get it just right builds, and the task becomes even more intimidating. The longer we wait, the more we build up the task in our minds, and it can become a source of stress rather than something we feel empowered to take on. By breaking the cycle of waiting and simply taking the first step, we alleviate that pressure and make progress, no matter how small. In the end, it's important to realize that action, even imperfect action, is always better than inaction. By letting go of the idea that everything must be perfect before we begin, we free ourselves from the constant cycle of waiting and doubting The perfect moment is not something that we can wait for, it's something that we create by taking action. Starting now, with what we have and where we are, is the only way to move forward and make progress toward our goals. In a world filled with distractions, competing priorities, and constant demands on our time, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters. We often get caught up in the whirlwind of day-to-day tasks, obligations, and noise, leaving us feeling drained, overwhelmed, and unfulfilled. The key to avoiding this trap is learning to focus on what truly matters, those things that align with our values, long-term goals, and sense of purpose. When we direct our attention and energy toward what truly matters, we create a sense of clarity, fulfillment, and progress. The first step in focusing on what matters is identifying what actually matters. It's easy to become distracted by things that seem urgent, but aren't necessarily important. There are countless distractions in our lives: emails, social media notifications, news cycles, and other people's demands. While many of these things can feel pressing, they may not align with our true priorities or long-term aspirations. Identifying what truly matters requires self-reflection and an understanding of your values, your goals, and what you ultimately want to achieve in life. This clarity gives you the power to filter out distractions and focus on the activities that will move you forward. One of the reasons we often struggle to focus on what matters is that we feel pressured to do everything or be everything to everyone. Society often glorifies busyness and multitasking, creating the illusion that we must be constantly active in order to be successful or valuable. This leads to the tendency to fill our days with tasks that don't contribute to our overall well-being or goals. However, doing everything leads to doing nothing well. When we try to juggle too many things at once, we dilute our energy, our attention, and our effectiveness. The key is learning to say no to the things that don't align with our priorities and choosing to invest our time and energy into the things that truly matter. Focusing on what matters also involves setting clear and specific goals. Without clear goals, it's easy to get lost in the noise of daily life and become reactive rather than proactive. When we have well-defined goals, we can prioritize our time and resources more effectively. Goals give us direction, purpose, and motivation. They allow us to break down large aspirations into smaller, actionable steps. This sense of purpose makes it easier to stay focused, even when distractions arise. Moreover, clear goals help us stay on track and measure our progress, ensuring that we are dedicating our time to what truly matters. It's also important to recognize that what matters may change over time. Our priorities shift as we grow, evolve, and encounter new experiences. What was once a central focus may no longer serve us, and new opportunities may arise that require our attention. For example, as we move through different stages of life, our focus may shift from career building to family, health, or personal growth. This fluidity is natural, and it's essential to stay in tune with what truly matters in the present moment. Flexibility is key to ensuring that we are consistently focusing on what aligns with our current values and goals. A major obstacle to focusing on what matters is the temptation to seek instant gratification. In today's world, it's easier than ever to get distracted by quick fixes. Social media, entertainment, unhealthy habits, and other distractions that provide immediate pleasure but contribute little to our long-term well-being. These distractions may offer temporary relief or enjoyment, but they often leave us feeling empty or unsatisfied in the long run. By focusing on what truly matters, we move beyond the pursuit of short-term pleasures and invest in long-term satisfaction. The effort we put into meaningful relationships, personal growth, and goal achievement pays off far more than the fleeting enjoyment of distractions. Another key aspect of focusing on what matters is simplifying our lives. We live in a world that constantly demands more from us, and it can be easy to accumulate physical, emotional, and mental clutter. This clutter takes up our time and energy, leaving little room for what truly matters. Simplification allows us to declutter our lives, remove unnecessary distractions, and focus on the essentials. This might mean decluttering our physical space, setting boundaries with others, reducing unnecessary commitments, or limiting the amount of time we spend on non-productive activities. By simplifying, we create more space in our lives to focus on the things that are truly important. We must also recognize that focusing on what matters involves learning to manage our time and energy effectively. Time is a finite resource, and every moment that we spend on things that don't contribute to our goals or values is time that we can't get back. Similarly, our energy is limited, and spreading ourselves too thin can lead to burnout, exhaustion, and frustration. Prioritizing what matters means making conscious decisions about how we use our time and energy. It involves setting boundaries, avoiding burnout, and ensuring that we are investing our resources into the activities, people, and goals that align with our purpose. Part of focusing on what matters is also being intentional with our attention. In an age of constant digital distractions, it's easy to get pulled in multiple directions at once. Our devices constantly demand our attention, whether through notifications, emails, or messages. This constant state of distraction fragments our focus and makes it difficult to be present in the moment. When we focus on what matters, we intentionally choose to direct our attention to the task at hand, whether it's a conversation, a project, or a moment of reflection. Being present in the moment allows us to fully engage with what we are doing and deepen our connection to what truly matters. One of the most important aspects of focusing on what matters is the ability to let go of guilt or the fear of missing out. We live in a culture that often encourages the pursuit of everything and the fear of missing out on opportunities, experiences, or achievements. However, trying to do it all leads to burnout and dissatisfaction. It's important to recognize that we can't do everything, and that's okay. By focusing on what matters, we are giving ourselves permission to let go of the things that don't serve us. This might mean declining certain invitations, saying no to extra commitments, or shifting our focus away from things that no longer align with our values. Letting go of guilt allows us to create the space we need to fully commit to what truly matters. Lastly, focusing on what matters requires willingness to be vulnerable and authentic. Often, the things that matter most to us are deeply personal and require us to be honest with ourselves and others. This might mean pursuing a passion, building meaningful relationships, or working toward a goal that feels daunting. It requires courage to invest time and energy into things that may not always be immediately rewarding or understood by others. But when we focus on what truly matters, we stay true to ourselves, and this authenticity is what brings long-term fulfillment and satisfaction. By focusing on what matters, we can cut through the noise, eliminate distractions, and spend our time and energy on what will truly contribute to our happiness, success, and well-being. Whether it's aligning with our values, building relationships, or pursuing our dreams, focusing on what matters is a powerful way to reclaim our time, our purpose, and our sense of fulfillment. When we invest in what is truly important, we make the most of our time and create a life that is meaningful, intentional, and deeply rewarding. In conclusion, time is our most valuable resource, and once it's gone, we can never get it back. The key to making the most of the time we have is not to let it slip away in the pursuit of perfection, distractions, or unnecessary stress. Instead, we must be mindful of how we spend each moment, focusing on what truly matters to us. Whether it's learning from our mistakes, taking action now, or prioritizing the things that align with our goals and values. Every decision we make shapes the life we lead. So, I urge you today, don't waste your time. Start now. Embrace the journey and make every moment count. Your time is precious and it's yours to make the most of. The choice is in your hands.